Hi, welcome back to another episode of Sacred Wild Man. My name is Roy, and today I will be covering the topic of morning rhythms or morning routines. Now in this video I'll be covering 3 points, the first being the importance of having a morning routine, and second, how your current morning routine is setting you up for the rest of your day, and lastly, 5 suggestions or 5 practices that you can try on your own and integrate into your current morning routine. Let's jump in. Morning routines or morning rhythms are important because they set the tone for the rest of your day. You may have heard of the saying that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you start out your day with something that is not to your greatest benefit in the long term, that will likely bleed out into everything else that you do. Whereas if you do something that is to your greatest benefit, that also bleeds out into everything else that you do. Another important factor to having a morning routine or rhythm is that it creates a sense of grounding. Now in this year of 2020, I imagine everyone has experienced some degree of disruption and disturbance. It's been a very disorienting year with everything that has happened. And for many, there can feel like a sense of the ground beneath you is just falling away. And some people have shared that in these times they feel like they may have regressed, they may have returned to habits or old vices as a means to create a sense of familiarity, comfort, and grounding in the disorientation. So a morning routine or morning rhythm that is in your highest interest is a way to create that sense of comfort, familiarity, something that creates for you a solid base when things get rough. Because you can always return to this of like, all right, this is just part of my rhythm. I do this because it is most important to me and my well-being, and so I will remain committed to this regardless of how wild the outer external circumstances are. Now on to how your current morning rhythms are setting you up for the rest of your day. So if you were to take a moment and just consider what your morning routine is. Maybe you get out of the bed, you brush your teeth, you go make some coffee, and then you turn on the TV or start scrolling on your smartphone. And if that is your morning routine, see if you can slow down and reflect on how that impacts the rest of your day. Now, especially in the year 2020, but even long before, media, especially TV, mainstream media, whatever you're scrolling through on your phone, social media, is by design kind of created to or curated to present to you fearful content. Especially in the year 2020, all the main headlines are focused on conflict, rife, fear for your life, you're in danger, you're not safe, your health is at risk. So if that is the way that you're starting your day off, whatever is on the news, whatever articles are most pressing, how do you think that affects the rest of your day? How you walk into work, how you walk into your relationships and conversations that you have with people, whether that's in person or on the phone. Again, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if the day starts off with anxiety, panic, anger, frustration, that will impact and ripple out through the rest of your day. So if that seems like something that you are no longer wanting to continue, I have some recommendations of practices that you can begin to integrate. Now, this is not something that will just click right from the beginning because, as the saying goes, old habits die hard. So even though these habits or routines no longer serve you in your best interest, and you yourself might know that just on a rational level, it still doesn't make it any easier to let go of those old habits. And so another thing to consider is how important is anxiety in your life? What function does anxiety, waking up to anxious news, waking up to fear content, waking up to content that makes you angry or sad, what purpose does it serve? And for some people, they have shared that, I feel anxious because it gives me some sense of control. there's some external threat out there, and if I constantly think about it, I'm solutions oriented. It's my way of trying to establish a sense of control in a year or a time in my life where I have felt so little of it. And it's kind of a catch-22, because you're doing the very thing that perpetuates that anxious loop. And so a change in a morning rhythm, morning routine, can begin to change the wiring in your brain so that you can have these habits that are actually in your best interest long term, your mental well-being. Now, the first practice is very simple: making your bed. Nothing special or fancy, and it's something that people who join the military learn to incorporate because they have to do it every morning. And for myself, creating this habit of making my bed in the morning is something that instills discipline, but also a sense of care for myself. There's something about making my bed that sets this intention, consciously or just unconsciously. It's sort of a non-verbal process of I am moving about my day with a sense of orderliness, but also care for my own space, where I rest my head in the evening. And when I see my bed in the evening and it's all made, to me it presents as an invitation of, okay, I can rest. This is where I can rest. This is made for me to rest. Now, the second practice is breath work. Now, this is something that I integrated into my morning routine after practicing the Wim Hof method. And if you're not familiar with who he is, Wim Hof is a Dutch man who's also known as the Iceman, who combines ancient yogic pranayama breathing practices along with cold exposure. Now, what I've noticed for myself with starting every morning with breath work is that it somehow just really sets me up well for the rest of the day. It creates this sense of, okay, I'm ready to tackle the day now. And in terms of what the feeling is, when you take deep breaths, deep full breaths that go into the belly, you are massaging your internal organs. And breath is also life. It is the one thing, if you compare it with food and water, that you cannot survive without. Like if you have food and water, you can go for a couple of days, but with air, not very long. And something about taking those deep breaths and changing like the chemistry in your body as you bombard it with oxygen and passive exhalation of carbon dioxide just seems to electrify and energize the body. Now, the next practice is stretching. I do that right after I do the breath work, because with all that electrifying and energizing my body, I feel primed in the perfect state to be able to stretch and limber myself up after a night of resting in a position that may or may not be most beneficial to my muscular skeletal system. And so that's a chance for me to stretch out my fascia, the tissues that hold everything together, and just create, again, more flow, bringing more circulation. And so with the breath work, with the stretching, I am energizing and making my body more limber and flexible. I'm more ready to take on the day, and it just creates a sense of relaxation as opposed to walking into the day with a sense of tension from how I might have been holding myself in a sleeping position. The next practice is gratitude. Now, some people might be aware of this one. Maybe you think it's cheesy. That's how I viewed it at first. I don't want to write, what I'm grateful for. Like, this just seems very cheesy, and I don't know, maybe a waste of time. But once I decided to set a kind of intention of I'm going to do this, and also keeping it manageable. So doing 3 things, writing down 3 things that I'm grateful for every morning, and also 3 things that I'm grateful for every evening. That was something I thought, okay, I can manage this. It's not like I'm trying to write a list of 50 things that I'm grateful for every single day, because there's a good chance that I would quit on that probably after the first go. And over time, what I've noticed about this practice is it's just the simple small things. Initially starting on, I would think about, these big picture things that I feel grateful for or ought to feel grateful for. But over time, it's been the small things that have made the difference. So, for example, even right now, as the sun is kind of poking its way out of the thick clouds, that is something I can experience gratitude for, because it's a ray of light in an otherwise mostly dreary and gray morning. Or this water tastes very refreshing. Things that I never really focused on or took for granted. These small things begin to pop up, and over time I notice myself just generally being in a more grateful attitude throughout the rest of the day. And that has made all the difference. Perhaps out of all of these, gratitude has been one of the most powerful things that I've noticed as part of my morning rhythm. And lastly would be writing down your intention for the rest of the day. So some people call this visioning or envisioning, but just writing down what goals you have for the day. What would you like to accomplish? What would you like to do? And it doesn't have to be something that is necessarily entrepreneurial in spirit, like, I'm going to accomplish this, I'm going to get all these things done, check all the things off my laundry list. It can be as simple as something as, I'm going to set aside 30 minutes of today to really take care of myself. Maybe I'll set aside an hour to go get a massage because I want to take care of myself that way. Or I'm going to set aside time when I go home to stop by the grocery store and buy something very yummy because I've been eating the same thing every day, and I feel like I want to introduce something else that is yummy, and it's a way to just love on myself. Setting that intention, setting that vision is a way to make it into reality. Because if a person is always thinking about, well, it'd be nice to do that. Yeah, I think I have this goal. That'd be really cool if I could accomplish it. It just remains as an idea. It is not written down, and so it is not seen as something by your mind as worthy of importance. And so over time, those dreams, those visions, those goals begin to fade away because you have not presented them to yourself as something that is worth investing intention and attention to. So this is one way you can begin to nourish that and actually make them into a reality. Bring what is in your mind out into the external 3D reality. So those are the practices that I have to share with you. If there's one that stood out to you, leave a comment below about which one that was and how you think it might benefit your life. I would recommend that if you choose to practice any one of these, to start out with just a few, maybe 1 or 2 practices, and then doing them for what feels like a practical time period for you, something that is tangible and not too lofty. So maybe you want to start with 3 days rather than saying, I'm going to do this for a whole month. The reason is sometimes when we set those lofty goals, they can quickly fall to the wayside when we think, there's so much more to go. But if it's something small, like 3 days, it's kind of like setting a goal of push-ups of, all right, I'm going to do 10 push-ups. Actually, I've done 10 push-ups. I could probably do 2 more. Same concept. So maybe after 3 days, you think, I could do this for another 2 days. And then those additional 2 days become another 2, and then another 2. And then soon it might take a life on its own, and you have now created a morning rhythm. If there are other practices that you yourself do for your morning routine that I did not mention, feel free to share those in the comments below. I would love to hear what other things that you all do and how those benefit your life and could benefit any other viewers who are watching this video. I wish you all the best with these morning rhythms and routines, and may they provide you a sense of comfort, grounding, and care in the tumultuous times that we live in and could continue to see as we move into a new year. Have a great rest of your day.